All right, everyone. Welcome back to Carl's Conversations. We thank God for every last one of you. We are here live. So glad to be back with you as we celebrate all of the wonderful contributions that Black Americans have made to this nation's building, its maintenance, its defense, to all of its arts, and to all of its beauty. We have the showcase of Black excellence, where we celebrate our tremendous successes in business, in the arts, in entertainment, in education, when it comes to community involvement, advocacy, and all those wonderful things. And on the other side of your screen, we have no less than attorney Kassandra Ramsey of the law office of Kassandra Ramsey, PLCC. And if you don't know what that is, and look, there's her brother, her brother Mickey, who was a previous feature on Carl's Conversations when it comes to this Black Excellence Showcase. I'm so glad that we have put together this feature. I'm going to ask that you're in our live audience already. Go ahead and begin to tag your family and friends. We are live right now on YouTube and Facebook. We were supposed to be live on Twitter, but we're having a problem right now with Twitter. I'm not sure what it is. I can't say I'm surprised. I'm surprised I lasted this long on Twitter with my content, but it's all right. It is all right. We'll work with what we have with YouTube and Facebook. So no matter where you are having us right now, please be sure that you tag someone. And if you have not already, make sure you go to Carl's Conversations everywhere where we are. We're on TikTok. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. Make sure you go and like, follow, and subscribe. Like I said, we have none other than the lovely Kassandra Ramsey, Esquire. I can appreciate, listen, I got to tell you, she is a family member. And I was just telling her in the studio before we came on, sometimes familiarity breeds contempt, and if we're not careful, that's always little Casey, the little cousin. But then you start looking at her professional accomplishments and you got to say, oh my God, that's not little Casey anymore. That is a professional and a very successful professional attorney, a mom, a businesswoman. It is just amazing. And as we take this time to shine the spotlight on all these different portions of Black excellence, I want to make sure that each time we do a feature, we take the time to appreciate and congratulate and explore each and every person that we feature. So I want to say thank you, Kassandra. Welcome to Carl's Conversation. And I can't wait to get into our conversation so everybody can get to know you and what the law office of Kassandra Ramsey is all about. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here and excited to get into the conversation.
All right. I want to know if you can tell us a little bit about your law office and exactly what you do.
So yeah, I have my own law practice. As you said, the law office of Cassandra Ramsey, PLLC. I'm based in the Washington, D.C. metro area. I'm licensed in D.C., Maryland, and New York. Um, and I have a business law practice. So I work with small businesses, creators, people who do things like Carl does with social media content and things like that, with building brands and businesses and protecting them. So I do anything from assisting them with applying for a federal trademark application with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, to reviewing contracts, drafting contracts to make sure that they have the proper contracts in place for their business. Some business owners may not be familiar with all of the different business entities. So, I'll explain that and what entity I think makes sense for them in their particular business. And also, I do a lot of work in the college athletic space too, with name, image, and likeness. So a lot of the things that I do there are like education based. My goal with that is to educate parents and athletes on these topics. And it dovetails a lot with my law practice because the same concepts that the business owners need to know. are the same concepts that the athletes need to know, because as they start to enter name, image, and likeness deals, they're essentially becoming entrepreneurs, really. So I try to educate them there so that they can get the most out of the opportunities and not be taken advantage of.
Now, you too were a high school athlete, for those who don't know, a super athlete, and a collegiate athlete also.
I didn't play in college, but I did play high school. Yeah.
Okay. Being a student athlete, did that help you to kind of lean into this area of law practice? Was that it? Or what was it that helped you to get into this portion of it?
Yeah, I knew I always wanted to find my way back to sports in some way. Although I didn't play in college, I did everything to play in college, as far as like playing AAU basketball, played for a very long time, and just the dedication that it even takes to get there, to get to that level that you can make varsity as a freshman. Or something like that. It starts very young. So I thought that the college athletic system was just wrong. Really, the way it really was kind of a civil rights violation, that these athletes who worked their whole childhood to get to the point that they can get noticed by college and make a college team. And then not that the scholarship isn't valuable, but for anybody who may be minimally familiar with college athletics knows that it's a big business, $1 billion business. And they were limited to a scholarship. And I thought that it was wrong. So I voiced my opinion on it, and so did a lot of other people. And that's why a few years ago in 2021, college athletes gained the right to at least profit from their own name, image, and likeness.
Were you in on that litigation that push for that?
No, so when the initial, well, it's kind of hard to call it initial, but when I'm gonna call it initial in this context, is I believe that this was the case that really pushed us to where we are now, was O'Bannon versus NCAA. I was still in law school at that time when that case was going into litigation. But I wrote a paper in school about the topic, advocating for college athletes' rights. Fast forward, I graduate, I'm studying for the bar. I get an opportunity to write for a retired NFL player, and there's another case that was in litigation, Alston versus NCAA, that I began writing about. And at the same time this was going on, California was developing their Fair Pay to Play Act, which was the first legislation to allow college athletes to profit from their NIL. So at that point, I really just got into it, just writing about it, informing people about it, and just talking about NIL and why it was important.
This is amazing. We've come so far from the time that I graduated high school in 1989. That's the time I was, trying to enter the college life, and where we come from that time until now, we never saw this. We always talked about it because it was so difficult if you were a college athlete that did not come from a family who had means. If you came from a family that didn't have money, it was rough. I don't think that the average person really understood how rough it was. Even if you had a scholarship, you still had to eat. You still had to get around. You still, you have to live. And when you don't have money, you come from these very poor families. It was illegal by NCAA rules to accept just about anything. And so I'm glad that we have the NIL deals now. It's a wonderful thing. Do you see an expansion from where the rules are now to help the college athletes even more, or do you see that maybe they're going to pull back? What do you see happening?
So even let's just back up a little bit to address what you were talking about, how things were when you were coming out of school. So yeah, people think, oh, you get this scholarship, but it wasn't really like that. First of all, everybody's not on a full scholarship. A lot of those scholarships were renewable by the year. So if you got injured, you may lose your scholarship. Things like that happen. And at the time, you couldn't even get cost of attendance. So the scholarship was just covering school. There was no cost of attendance allocation. We did not get cost of attendance scholarships or grants and aid until 2016, which was a result of the abandoned case. So 9 years ago that they just started covering the full cost of attendance for those who receive a full scholarship.
Why do you think it took the NCAA so long to go this route?
Money, money. They
Wow.
wanted to keep their money. They have managed to convince people that college athletes cannot be paid because they're amateurs. Well, why are they amateurs? Because they're not paid. Completely circular reasoning. And I mean, and they went to court. they went hard for this reason and have lost, tremendously,
Wow.
and they just don't want to change the system to share the wealth.
Wow. Absolutely amazing. All that money that these athletes were making for these universities, and you had athletes that were just barely making it. I mean, really just barely making it. I'm so glad to see that there are some systems in place for them to make it. Now, let me ask you, when an athlete comes to your law office seeking representation, how does that work? Now, I'm telling you, I'm totally ignorant of that process, but maybe you can help the audience understand how's that when here it is. I'm an athlete. Maybe I'm on scholarship. I don't understand how NIL works. There's a lot of people telling me a lot of things, but I don't know if I can trust them. You look like me. It looks like you come from a background I come from, and I think that maybe I can trust you. Attorney Kassandra, can you please help me? Where do we start?
Yeah, so I'm not an agent, so I don't represent them in the agent capacity. But where I can help is by explaining to them what's going on in the system. If they have a contract that needs to be looked at, or they have questions about, I can definitely answer that. I can point them in the direction that they need to go, as far as make sure that you understand the NIL law in your state, understand your school's NIL policy. Who the different people are at the school who may be able to help you, like your compliance office and different positions that they've started to create now as it relates to NIL. So, any type of contract review or just general NIL education, I can assist.
Oh wow! So let's peel the layers of the onion on that. What does that look like? They come to you, and maybe like who offers the NIL deal? Does it come through agents? I have no idea how this happens.
So when NIL first started in 2021, it was meant to be third party NIL deals, meaning like athletes going out on their own, getting their own deals, very much like a social media influencer would, right? So social media will start to be a major part of NIL and opportunities that athletes will have. And it was. But then about this was July. So September of the same year, we have these things emerge called NIL collectives, which was basically boosters and those who alumni who want to support their school coming together, pooling their resources to provide NIL opportunities to their athletes. So um you have like NIL collectives that would offer the athlete a deal. And what ended up happening was the collectives were essentially saying like, hey, we'll offer you this much money for you to come to our school, which is not really what it was intended to be. And there's been, some litigation because the NCAA is still holding on to we don't have pay for play. They're still holding on to that. So those type of deals would violate that, but it's happening. So, um, so to your question, now you can have an NIL collective that may offer the player an opportunity, and or you could have like a company that's gonna offer like a third party deal. Another player in the space are NIL marketplaces, which is basically little companies where an athlete can sign up and be in the marketplace, and they can kind of use that platform to try to find different NIL deals in the marketplace, and they assist them with finding a deal. So,
Wow. Now I saw on your website where you offer a plethora of things for these athletes. You offer some free IQ tests, the free intelligence quotient test, the free cognitive skills test. How does those things help a prospective client, or is it there to help a client? Once again, I'm trying to learn.
I offer a free NIL contract checklist and a social media audit form. So that's there to help them like here maybe you don't know any attorneys or can't afford an attorney, but here's some important terms in the contract that you should be aware of, and these are some questions that you should ask, and that's completely for free. Social media audit is a form that you can take an audit of your social media and how you can better place it to help you get other NIL deals.
This is amazing. This is stuff that I didn't even know existed. Now, when it came time for you to start your business, I mean, you went to law school, and I've never been to law school. So, did you learn anything about starting a business while you were there? And whatever you did learn, did it make you more confident and launching out in the entrepreneurial way to start your business?
So you'll find most lawyers to tell you that the law does not really teach you how to run a business or anything like that. I always wanted to get into the entrepreneurship and the law class, but it was always closed and I never could get in, or it would conflict with another class that I needed to take, for like to graduate. So they did offer that class. I just wasn't fortunate enough to take it. So there is a learning curve to get over if you've never really been exposed to business, which at that point I had not. I was a political science major in undergrad, so there's no business teaching going on there. And then the same thing in the law. But what I did do in law school was I took business related courses, like I took corporations and things like that, which is like a required course for the bar exam anyway. So you do at least learn like, well, what is an LLC, what is a partnership, and these things, because you have to know these things in order to pass the bar. So in that sense, it's not completely foreign, but at least for me, um, you can kind of get over the learning curve of like, okay, what business entity should I start with? Do I need the business license, things like that? But what was been a challenge for me is the marketing, right?
Mm.
'Cause you can have a business all day, but if nobody knows you're there, then it doesn't really work that well. So um that has been a challenge because now you are running a business, needing to know the law and needing to understand marketing.
So, what was it that made you say, regardless of what I know or what I don't know, I'm stepping out. I'm going to start this business, and I'm just going to apply myself to do the best I can to learn and grow. I am going to own my own law practice. What made you do it?
I wanted to get more experience in the areas of law that I wanted to practice in. While I didn't get a lot of business training in law school, I was fortunate enough to be able to participate in clinic courses. So clinics are like where you can do get practical law experience. I did two. I did the intellectual property law clinic and I did the fair housing clinic. So that at least gave me some experience, like dealing with clients and working in a practical space. So that at least helped me say, okay, this is some of the things that I need to know and be able to set up to run a law practice. But I really just kind of wanted it to get started in the things that I wanted to get started in. It can be difficult to kind of break into sports law as they call it. So having my own law firm allowed me to build my own brand and everything in this very niche market of sports law.
Wow. Now, did you have to build a team to help you in the areas that maybe you're not as strong in, or did you just dive head first and learn everything yourself?
I dived head first, but I have had like business coaches and partnered with some people who work in marketing and things to help make some of those things easier.
Wow, this is amazing. So, if I come to you and say, "Okay, Attorney Cassandra, I need to put together a packet. I want to take Carl's conversations to the next level. I need for you to work with me when it comes to marketing. I want to do some branding. I want to get some copyright things done. How would that look as far as putting together a packet uh, of services and pricing? What does that look like?
So yeah, we would sit down and talk about exactly all the things that you want to do. If you want to get the copyright, we can. So I would explain to you what how copyright works. So with copyright, right, you automatically have copyrights. The author automatically has them, but there are benefits to registering with the United States Copyright Office, especially if you ever find yourself in like needing to sue somebody for infringing on your copyright. So we would talk about those things. You talked about like licensing, sponsorships. I would explain to you licensing agreements and what you should look for, what you should say no to, different sponsorship agreements. So it really just depends on like the opportunities that you're going after and what's being presented to you. But at a base level, I think I would explain to you what I think applies to you as far as what a sponsorship agreement is, how to license your content, and how to protect your content through copyrights and trademarks.
Now, what about those who come to you who maybe, I mean, they're starting at the bottom of the barrel. They don't have a six-figure stream of income yet, and we know you're not cheap. We understand that. Uh, do you have a way of working with that type of client that can help get them to where they need to be so that the compensation can be where it needs to be when it comes to what they need to pay you?
So yeah, I will sometimes do things for a reduced fee. We call it like a low bono type of rate. And sometimes I still volunteer with like the local volunteer lawyers for the arts association. So I may do something pro bono if it comes through them. And sometimes I'll even point these people in those directions because that's the services that they need. If I'll at least explain to them what they should be looking for and try to point them in the direction of where they can find services that they can afford or for pro bono.
This is great. Now let me ask you this: uh, when you look at your colleagues, look around the other attorneys who are doing what you do, and I guess you could say in some ways maybe you even your competitors. Do you find that there are many who look like you?
Um, I think once you kind of get in a space and you start going to events and you're seeing the same people, it can make you forget that it's really not that many of us. Right? But then to the same point, you realize you're seeing the same people. But once you're around like these people, you just like, okay, this is the norm. But then you kind of like, wait, this is really not that many of us. So you have to kind of remind yourself. But as you're networking with your peers and y'all are all in the same space, sometimes it can feel like it's just a crowded space. But then you always got to come back to, okay, African American attorneys don't only make up like 3% of the profession, and women is even less. So, you know,
Do you feel like a trailblazer or pioneer?
um, do I feel it? Probably not. Do sometimes people, say things, like, you're blazing your own way and things like that. I have to kind of step back and make myself realize the accomplishments that I have had and say, okay, I guess I can see where you may be going with that comment. But I think when you're in it, it's hard to feel it.
I got it. You're so busy working and building, you
Yeah.
don't have time to think about that.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, it feels good, and this kind of success looks good on you, and I certainly am proud of you. And let me tell you, when we talk about showcasing and spotlighting Black excellence, there's nowhere in the world I could have done this spotlight, this showcase without you. It's just awesome. I'm sitting back and I'm telling you, I'm having a different kind of experience. I'm conducting an interview, but I'm also sitting here having a fan moment because I really do appreciate what you're doing. And like I said, I have the very interesting perspective of remembering little teeny Casey, right? And it's just amazing. Let me ask you, how did your background, your family background, your education from high school to undergrad to law school, the specific undergrad, the specific law school, how did it prepare you to do what you're doing now? And did you think if you had gone to different universities, would it have prepared you differently, better, worse? How did you think that worked out
I
for
went
you?
to two HBCUs, HBCU all the way at Virginia State University for undergrad, Howard University School of Law for law school. Wouldn't change anything about either one. So, um, but would you have a different experience? I mean, yeah, of course, right? You're going to be at a different school, different perspectives. Actually, to that point, I had an opportunity to spend the summer at Duke University, my junior year of college, going into my senior year, and so that did open me up to a lot of just the differences and experiences. Like, the resources on that campus were just immense, versus where I was going to school. But would I change that? Absolutely not. The experience that you get going to a HBCU is a unique experience, and the opportunity to be around many people who look like you and have this similar aspirations to you, and who are able to go out and accomplish those things. So from like high school to college and everything, my parents did not play about school and grades and education. Particularly my mom was a stickler for writing and made sure that my brother and I both knew how to write. But how did that help me? It certainly helped me as a political science major, and it helped me in law school. But where I think it really helped me career wise was, like I said, when I was studying for the bar. I started writing for that NFL player, and just the writing skills that I had been developing from school years up until then allowed me to be able to do that. And it was those writings that got me the notoriety that I've gotten in the NIL space and college sports space. So you may think that the little steps that you're taking back then are insignificant. They're not. They're gonna add up. And even to the point of playing youth sports the way that I did, as intensely as I did, that experience gives me an appreciation for what athletes go through to get to the next level. And is that I bring to the conversation, because even now we're starting to see NIL in high school sports, and people questioning whether or not they should have it. And I'm like, they're making the same grind, to get there. And if they have marketability at that time, I think that they should be allowed to, and we have a responsibility to make sure that they're protected as they do it.
Wow, I didn't know that the NIL deal was running down to the high school level, but some of these high school athletes garner so much attention and so much
Yes.
revenue. Until my thing is, if they're garnering revenue, well, then they have the right to share in it, I believe. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know all of the legal ins and outs. I just don't know that. But from a layman's point of view, if you're generating revenue, you ought to be able to share in it.
Yeah. And another thing that people don't realize is everybody has name, image, and likeness rights, right? It's born out of the legal concept called the right of publicity. Like, everybody has the right to control what's done with their name, what's done with their image, and what's done with their likeness, and who is able to exploit it and make money off of it. It's just that the college sports system decided to take that away from the athlete while they still made billions of dollars off
Mm.
of the athletes NIL.
This is just amazing. It really, really is. Let me ask you, at what point did you know that you know that you know that you know that you wanted to be an attorney?
So yeah, I'm one of those weird people who knew what I wanted to do from like young. Like, I knew I wanted to go to law school. I even found a paper when from like high school where I said I was going to go to Howard University School of Law. Actually ended up going. So yeah, it was something that I always wanted to do.
What made you want to do that?
I feel like everything begins and ends with the law. So in order to do anything, you have to know what you can and cannot do, and you got to understand it. And so law school to me was the place to do that. And after going through the first year of law school, I stand on everybody should have to take those first year law school classes, because it teaches you like all the practical things about law, like property. So when you buy a house, talking about mortgages, the things that's going on in the world now, like if people had that basis of constitutional law, things would make so much more sense.
Oh boy.
And so I think that that's the foundational education that everybody should at least be exposed to, even if they don't take it, as far as we take it as attorneys, but just at least exposed to some of those concepts.
Right. Then let me ask you, and I don't mean to poke or be a trouble starter. This is not that type of question, but I'm curious. We know that we have many, many athletes of color, and many times they're going into professional sports, but the decision makers are oftentimes not people of color. When you are representing these athletes as their attorney, do you see racial, ethnic, cultural biases when it comes to negotiating uh, the image, the likeness, and all that kind of stuff, and all the other things that you represent your clients in?
I think it's like the education gap, right? Particularly people in the minority communities, like, we have no idea what NIL even means or why it's important. So we're just so happy to get the deal. Like, we're
Mhm.
not even thinking about long term. Like, we just happy to get the check today. But while you signed that deal, you just gave this company their right to use your NIL in perpetuity, and you get no royalties for that. So I find that those like terms like royalties, and they don't know what it is. So I find that that's um more of like a problem, and it's just because of the access. Like, you don't know any lawyers. First, a lot of them are first generation college. Like, they have no idea what these concepts are. So that creates a gap,
Mhm.
just in the deals that are available and how to take advantage of them.
Right. I imagine that some of these colleges and universities, and even some of the professional teams, when it comes to the rookie symposiums, I would imagine that at some point you get invited to come talk to these teams to kind of, make them understand that it's something besides being on the field or on the court. Do you get those type of invitations? And if you do, what do you do to kind of get them educated on what's really going on out here?
I've not gotten an invitation yet to speak to a professional team. So if somebody's looking, definitely I'll be more than happy to come and speak to a
Oh,
professional
wow.
team. But I have seen some of my colleagues who have done it, and they're teaching them the very things that we're talking about here. What to look for in your contract. Then it's not just about contracts, right? I have gone and spoke at different colleges, and I'll meet other financial advisors and things like that, and they're talking to them about taxes because a lot of times they get these agreements and they don't realize that or they'll see the term independent contract, then it just goes like this, and they don't realize the significance of it, and that this means that you gotta take money out for your own taxes, and just even if the company didn't pay you and they gave you a gift, you still have to pay taxes on that. So being able to go to those type of events where there are estate planners and financial advisors and people who work in marketing and branding, and then I bring the legal piece and put it all together and able to tell the athletes what they should be, the business side of being an athlete. Like, so
Mhm.
there's playing on the court and you got that, but you also have to learn the business side of being an athlete. And I think as we see more Black athletes learn the business of being an athlete, to your previous question, we'll start to see more athletes get into the administration side of sports.
What can we do to help our young people before they become that superstar at the collegiate level, going, leaning into going to pros? Because the way the money is now, if you become a superstar in college, you don't need to go to the pros. You can make so much money in college until you can go about your business. But before
And
they
so
get to
that's
that,
that's been happening, especially in the NFL. Like the draft entrance has significantly decreased since we've had NIL opportunities, which is great because now athletes are staying in school, they're getting their degree, and everybody knows the NFL stands for not for long. So you're leaving early, and then you don't even have that long a career, and you didn't finish school. So NIL has been, I think, a positive impact on that point. I'm sorry, I just wanted to
no,
make
it's
make a
okay.
point
I'm
about that.
glad
Yeah.
we need to have this dialogue. What can we do to make our student athletes a little bit more savvy before they become superstars? Because sometimes, you know, when we talk about entertainment and athletics as a part of entertainment, show business, we have been conditioned to be so good at the show, but so short on the business. And then
Yeah.
you hear the horror stories, how they did so well at the show, but because they didn't know the business, they end up aging, and then it's downhill because they don't realize that the time you're going to spend on the field or on the court, that's really a snapshot when it comes to the whole life, and you got to maximize that time you do have on the court or on the field, and that's the business part. What can we do to help our youngsters to be better at understanding the business before they become superstars?
You got to educate the people that supported them, right? Their parents, their coaches, their youth sports coaches, making sure that they fully understand what's at stake for the athlete, so that hopefully you can start to also educate the athlete, at an age appropriate level. Like, I understand you're not gonna talk too in depth about some of these concepts with super young athletes, but I think that there is a way to start to introduce these concepts, just like we start to introduce algebra with pre-algebra, right? We got to start to introduce, okay, what does it mean to be in business? What does an LLC mean? Why are contracts important to my life? Because even learning all of these things in the athletic context, these are the things that you need to know for life. Because when you go to buy a house and you sign up to pay the mortgage, you sign a contract, right? So, and just starting to teach the practical life skills about like taxes while they're important. What does it mean to be an independent contractor? What is a W 2, 290, 1099? What making people from a young age realize that everyone does in fact have an estate. It's not just something that's for rich people. um Putting something in your will doesn't do anything for what you may want to do today, while you're living. and just understanding how all of those concepts work. So I think educating the parents, educating the coaches and other people who support them on these concepts, and then working with them to educate the athletes.
Wow. Now, there's some things that you do in addition to, your law office, and I want to talk about your volunteer work with the Maryland Volunteer Lawyer of the Arts, and being the sports law chair of the District of Columbia Bar Arts, Media, and Entertainment and Sports Law Community, and maybe some other things that are not listed on your website. Can we talk about a few of those things that you do at volunteering and other responsibilities that you have?
Yeah, so I started volunteering with the local volunteer lawyers for the arts. Again, because like I said, I wanted to get experience in the areas that I wanted to get experience in. And one of the ways to do that was with volunteering with those organizations. So it allowed me to meet other attorneys working in those areas, and it gave me an opportunity to take some pro bono and low bono cases and started to get some experience. And it just gave me an opportunity for community engagement, um, getting to meet people in the arts and entertainment space and learning what their needs are and things like that. So it better help me learn what I needed to, learn and go and make sure that I was well versed in. Um, Being the sports law chair of the DC bar gave me an opportunity to network with the legal community. It also actually right when I took over, I was planning what was supposed to be an in-person panel. We were going to do it in conjunction with a Capitals game, and then COVID happened.
Oh, wow.
So, so we're all like in limbo. So then we start planning virtual events. But the great thing about the virtual events was that it gave me a reason to reach out to people all over the country to invite them on different panels and things like that. So what happened was I was meeting people virtually, and then as things opened up, now I've been meeting these people in person, and it's like, well, we finally get to meet in person. So it is great to be involved with your bar association for the networking opportunities that it can provide.
Do you think
Um,
some of the exposure that you got in your volunteer work you may not have gotten if you had not volunteered?
oh yeah, yeah. Because depending on where you are, like at a firm, like you can be at a firm doing family law or like criminal law, some other area of law that doesn't really touch that. So an opportunity to get it is through doing the volunteer work.
Amazing. Amazing. You are really amazing. Well, listen, is there something that maybe we have not hit upon in this interview so far that you want to say? But wait a minute, but before I let you go on that one, there's a question I must ask. Now, there are going to be many people that see this interview. For the ones who didn't catch us live, they're going to catch it on the playback. For that 13, 14-year-old girl who is looking up to you, she has dreams of being the first lawyer in her family. Maybe nobody in her family has even graduated college, let alone going to law school. She wants to be like Cassandra Ramsey, Esquire, and maybe she wants to come and try to schedule a visit to your office to see what you do. What would you tell her to help her to realize her dream of being where you are?
First is to not be so hard on yourself, and to take the time with the opportunities that you have in front of you now. Like it's easy sometimes to keep looking forward to the future, but you got to be in the present and appreciate the opportunities and get the most out of those that you have now, because you never know how those are building to your next step. So have a plan for sure, but also be able to pivot, because you're gonna have a plan, but it's not gonna go exactly according to plan. It never does for anybody. And to realize that success is not linear, right? You're gonna have moments where you're like this, and you're gonna come back down like this. So you may thought you were gonna go left, and you need to go right. And just perseverance and not giving up. Like somebody else's path isn't yours. You'll see the path that's drawn out on paper, but that's not the path for you. But it doesn't mean that your path to get there is wrong, right? You're still gonna get there.
Wow, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Along your journey to where you are, did you ever feel like giving up?
Oh, of course, right? For me, like taking tests is always difficult, like standardized tests. So, getting into law school, I had to get past the LSAT hurdle. I have no problem with being a candidate with not passing the bar the first time. So I had to get past that hurdle. So all of those things are challenges, but those challenges are not unique to anyone. People fail the bar exam. Some of the most very successful people fail the bar exam. So just, get back on the horse and try it again. But
Wow.
in I'll say in failing the bar exam in Virginia, in the meantime, the DC bar became what's now known as a uniform bar exam jurisdiction, which is like the uniform test. So what ended up happening was once I passed the bar in DC, I got a high enough score to waive into Maryland and to waive into New York.
Wow.
So,
And that's something, and I'm glad you
yeah.
shared that, because sometimes when we have a failure, we can only see the failure, but we don't see, number one, that sometimes failure is a part of our success. And sometimes you can take a failure and you can make it success. When you talk about perseverance, and I'm telling you, maybe everybody's not built for me. I'm one of those persons. I had to have some failure to have a certain level of success. You know what I mean? I don't really have an ego, but just maybe the way I'm built, some failures kind of slapped me around enough and humbled me enough, to kind of get up and have that edge, like I'm gonna really get X, Y, and Z done. Maybe everybody's not built like that, but failure was good for me,
Yeah.
and I'm not ashamed of it.
And everybody who's successful has failed at something. It's inevitable.
That's right. So listen, if maybe we didn't cover something in this interview, there may be something that you wanted to say, maybe about your business, maybe about your path, anything. I want to give you an opportunity to address the audience with anything maybe we didn't cover.
Let's talk about something that recently happened. So, I'm a part of this organization called the Drake Group. It's an nonprofit organization that works with Congress on behalf of college athletes' rights. I became a board member in like 2023. And then I was asked to be the president elect, and then the president recently had to step down. So um, in December, I became the president, and this first quarter of the year has been a lot of adjusting to being the president of the Drake Group board, which has been a really good like experience. Just when it keeps me really involved in what's going on in the college athletic space, and being able to work with people who've been working in the industry for years, and being able to have the opportunity to lead the organization, which is a really respected organization within college sports.
Oh man, I tell you, that is great. And what you're doing to represent athletes and dealing with the NILs, let me tell y'all something. I'm going to put the website on the screen for you, because it is so important. Y'all get a chance, please go to the website for the law office of Kassandra Ramsey, PLLC. And while we're at it, can you explain what that means, since we're having us a little law course?
PLLC,
Yes, ma'am.
professional liability company. So when people have like professional licenses, like attorney, you may see PLLC. So it's basically like a LLC,
Mm,
limited liability company, right? But professional limited liability company.
that's what I'm talking
And
about.
he has my law firm website there too. But I also have another website for the NIL stuff that I do.
Uh-huh.
It's www.theesquirecoach.com. And there you'll find the NIL contract checklist, the social media audit form, and a lot of resources for NIL. I have a list of all the state NIL laws, several school NIL policies. It's just really meant to be a resource for college athletics and NIL. And you'll also find my podcast there where I have guests come on to talk about college sports.
Wow. You got two websites. You got the podcast. You have the law office, and you have, I think it's three positions where you volunteer.
And also the volunteer lawyers for the arts is just kind of, as I'm able to do it, but the Drake Group board thing, that's like, um more time intensive opportunity.
Wow.
Oh, and then the podcast that I do have, it airs on TV locally, in Bowie, Maryland, with the Bowie TV network. So
What's the
there's
name of
that
your
to listen.
podcast?
And I court to court with the Esquire Coach.
And if they
Yeah,
go to the Cassandra Ramsey legal.com website, will they see a link to your podcast?
the Coach.com
Okay.
website.
I'm
They'll
gonna
see it
put that
up
back
there.
on the screen too.
Yeah.
All right, there it is, y'all. The esquirecoach.com. If you go to that site, you will see the link to her podcast. And I want you to know I'm gonna go check it out. And so I'm gonna have to hire my cousin, y'all. I'm gonna have to hire.
Yes,
And look, I know I got to
definitely.
pay you because your daddy gonna fight me if I
Oh,
don't pay you.
no. Keep it, definitely keep it in the family. One thing he didn't mention was that he actually officiated my wedding. So keep it
Oh,
all in the
yes, yes,
family.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Listen, that was an honor. Listen, I cannot tell y'all what an absolute pleasure and honor it is. Number one, to interview anybody who is a part of this Black Excellence Showcase. It is my pleasure to bring you this on Carl's Conversations, but then to have a family member who is a part of the showcase. And let me tell you, you don't get to get on just because we're blood. You get to get on because you have exemplified Black excellence. And let me tell you something. It is my honor to bring you this showcase. We so many times think that we have to reach all the way out to Hollywood and to Broadway and all those places, get all these big names. That is not the truth. We have so many great people around us. We truly, truly do. We have greatness around us. We have people who are shining examples of what men and women ought to be. And this young lady here, attorney Kassandra Ramsey, is an exemplification of Black excellence. Let me make a correction. She's the exemplification of excellence anywhere. But when it comes to showcasing Black excellence, we get to claim her. We get to claim her, but we can't hold her all to ourselves. We have to share her with the world. And I'm so glad to do that. Thank you so much for being a part of this showcase. I am so proud of you, and I'm so appreciative that you decided to spend a few minutes with us today.
Thank you for having me.
It has been awesome. Well, listen, y'all, we have another spotlight on the excellence and Black for the showcase of Black excellence coming up on Wednesday evening, Wednesday, March 12th at 8 p.m. We're going to highlight Michelle Evans Rivas, a nurse practitioner and business owner out of Richmond, Virginia. That will be our next feature. Don't miss it. Wednesday at 8 p.m. coming to you. And then next week, oh man, we got a doozy for you. Nisha Hall from the Virginia Black Chamber of Commerce. And I got some stuff I'm lining up in the chute for the rest of March. I just talked to somebody today and she asked me, can you please get me on before April 1st? I said, yes. And so we have so many good things lined up for you in this showcase of Black excellence. And I want to keep you involved. Y'all, come on. If you're in the audience right now and you know you need to be in this showcase, I want you to reach out to me. If you know of someone who exemplifies Black excellence, I want you to contact me with their information so I can reach out and pull them into the showcase. All right. Thank God for all of you. We'll see you on Wednesday evening as we feature nurse practitioner Michelle Evans Rivas. Until then, y'all have a great evening. And remember, the spotlight of Black excellence can be on you. Until next time, y'all be well. Bye bye for now.